What instantly kills the vibe at a party? Aggressive drunks. Someone putting the big light on. The crying girl that needs everyone to console her. Get out of the bathroom, there's a line forming. Someone took a hit in the sink at a house party of mine once. That was a buzz killer for sure. When someone turns off the music and starts playing an acoustic guitar. When someone gets too drunk and starts arguing. I was at a staff party with an open bar, and I treached the time when the first clusters of guests were leaving. When they went to get their coats from the closet, they discovered a young new team member who we thought had left hours ago. He had stripped off all his clothes, made a nest of jackets, soiled everything, and passed out. Killed. The vibe for sure. An overdose. Using the party for MLM sales opportunities. I was invited to a dinner party and only found out when I got there that it was a pitch for Amway. When I arrived, I was told there would be a short presentation prior to dinner. I said, no, thank you, and left. That one sad drunk who is loud as hell. In college, when we wanted to wrap up the party at 2 or 3 a.m., play Dark Side of the Moon. Drops the energy, no one is being asked to leave, people are chill as they head out, no crazy disruptions for the neighbors. Not specifically the vibe killing that the rest of the posters are sharing, but similar. Cops. A friend of mine announced she had to fart to the entire kitchen while she was intoxicated. She proceeded to hit liquid diarrhea on herself. If at the floor, it smelled terrible. Party ended before it really ever began. Guess she had some stomach bug or IBS or something. She ended up getting diapers for any gift giving. Occasion after. No clue where she ended up, we lost touch a year or so later. Edit. I've had some experts weigh in to tell me nobody with IBS trusts farts, so I'm going to bend the knee to those soldiers battling their own colons and rule out IBS. I'll leave it in thought for continuity. A couple getting into a public argument. Shortage of drinks when everything is closed. When some mope brings out their guitar and starts playing without anyone having asked them to. Sorry, but you are not the center of attention you seem to want to be. Someone trying to show off a weapon, especially a gun, it's time to nope out. When people take over the TV to share YouTube videos. When someone changes a song before the best part. I've done this and got my domestics communicated, rightfully. The two drunkest guys getting into a fight and the end hearing one of their GFS start crying and screaming things like, stop for me please, look at me, this isn't you, etc. before she gets yeeted by being in the crossfire. 4 or 5 guys RSN domly walking in that may or may not know the host. The person with a fresh breakup. The dude who had too much. Landing on your car keys when you try to do the splits. Anybody whips out a crack, meth pipe or syringes, I'm out. Injuries. Watch me dive head first into the shallow end of the pool and break both my hands. Or I'm going to do a keg stand and break my nose. People who had X with a celebrity, how was it? Waiting for someone to say, amazing, until I was kicked out of the wax museum. The worst part about blowing Willie Nelson was afterwards when he told me he wasn't actually Willie Nelson. Friend of a friend allegedly slept with the Kingsoft Leon singer back in the day. Small package and gave her an STD was the report. X is on fire always makes me laugh for this reason. It was good, but she goes to a different school so you wouldn't know her. Bold assumption that Redditors fall into this category. I had X with Eartha Kitt in an airplane bathroom. I had a neighbor that blew Bruno Mars. Her husband took exception to that and bailed. A close friend slept with a Backstreet Boy, AJ, in his hotel room after a show in our city. She said there was about 10 minutes of X and 3 hours listening to his new personal music project on his laptop. Both sucked. You're expecting the internet to be honest with a question like that? Not me, but I know someone who upped Pauly Shore. Like a solid 12 years after Biodome Pauly Shore. She literally describes it as exactly what you'd expect banging Pauly Shore is like. My older brother ditched me trying to hook up with Joan Jett. I was 15 or 16 at the time and she was in town for the Indy 500 or 4th of July, can't remember which one exactly, but we ran into her and she was extremely nice and talked to us for a couple of hours before she performed. Next thing I know my brother's friend is giving me a ride home. Because he had some other plans, turns out she was just being an actual genuinely nice person and my brother read that as her hitting on him. Wish I could have been there for the rejection. Open mouth smile. Terrence Howard tried to UCK my ex. Went into the store she was working in to buy soap for his hotel room and put his hotel key on the counter for her when he paid. She slid it right back. In the 60s, I made love to many people, often outdoors, in the mud and the rain, and it's possible a celebrity slipped in. There would be no way of knowing. I matched with a woman who was a top 50 tennis player on Tinder while I was at a conference. I figured it was a bot or just a scammer, but since Ethy agreed to meet me at the bar across from my hotel, I figured what was the worst that could happen. Chatted for 20 minutes and she agreed to go upstairs. I was a bit intimidated as I am not an athlete, but I proceeded to give her a solidly mediocre 25 minutes of lovin'. She then left and unmatched me. So I guess it was fine. Standard first-time ex with an extra dose of awkward from my end where the person was better looking and a lot more fit than I'm used to, but otherwise pretty much the same thing as non-celebrity ex. My ex is from Toronto and hooked up with The Weeknd. She said he was nice and asked if he cowled him on her face. She said yes. Judge Judy was as you'd expect. My girlfriend ucked Evan Dando while we were on a break. So, by the transitive property I've *ucked Winona Ryder. 10 would not recommend. My band was on tour in 2010 and we played Spaceland in LA. Kesha was there and was already pretty well known. I had no idea who she was, but we had a friend in common and all hung out that night. I hooked up in my hotel room and it was unmemorable, I'm sure for her, too, as we were both pretty wasted. Left town the next day and we haven't spoken since. A friend of mine thought she had ex with Kevin Costner, but it was just some sleazy lawyer from Albuquerque. She is a rather famous broadcast personality in the UK. Went out with her for about 6 months in my 20s. Whenever she's on TV and I turn on with my wife or my parents, I feel really embarrassed somehow and want to turn over, but at the same time pretend not to notice. Kind of awkward. Edit. I realize I haven't directly answered the question. The ex was good. She had a few kinks that I thought were somewhat weird, though realized later weren't all that weird really. She was lovely. I really messed things up, but I'm happy with how things later ended up and am not hung up on her or anything. Although part of why I cringe somehow is imagining how others may expect that I regret no longer being with her. As a blind woman, I was surprised at the number of celebrities thopping out at my local bar and keep hitting on me. I'm surprised to see so many. No one on Reddit has slept with a celebrity. Comments. I work in the film industry and let me tell ya, a significant portion of actors are horndogs like everyone else, and sleep with a lot of crew and extras. Woman shrugging, medium light skin tone. My friend upped Bam Margera and Bill Vallo, not at the same time, said they both sucked. One of my exes hooked up with Timothée Chalamet. She said he was cool. As Drake once said, I'm upset. Friend of a friend blew John Mayer and he had explosive diarrhea around about the time he climaxed and shat all over her shirt. She had to leave the hotel room without a top on. This happened like 15 years ago and I've never been able to associate him with anything else. Fathers, be good to your daughters, lest they be pooped on by. John Mayer in a hotel room. I'm just here for Pete Davidson's Reddit account. Vivian Vance pulled a ick like she was yanking a carrot out of the dirt. I started to answer until I realized that you cite celebrity and not celery. You think a single person on this god-forsaken website has the social acumen to be able to bed a celebrity? Needs a serious tag, but I once dated a cam girl that made it on an HBO show about cam girls. I'll try to find the show and post it here. She was a regular girl, but she did love X and was open to doing anything. This was before the fame, but it didn't change her. The show was a one-time deal, and her online fame kind of ended because she decided to settle down and have a child. I follow her on social media. She is really happy and I love that for her. Show was X Now, back in 2013. Well, Margot Robbie was amazing. Her body, her skill in bed. She took me out afterwards for pizza, and she paid. Then I woke up. Question is, what falls under celebrity? If you ask an influencer with like 100k followers, they'd probably tell you they are a celebrity. After X, I asked Hayden Christensen how he felt about having kids, and he just got this murderous look in his eyes. To be fair, it could be because we had X on the beach and afterward the coarse sand got everywhere. I hooked up with Veronica Vaughn. She was wild. Trust me. I know from experience. My mum dated Michael Hutchence from INXS when they were both teenagers. She met him at one of their shows when INXS was a small band and she quickly became buddies with them. They would oftentimes pick her up in their van and she'd go to shows with them. After a year or two, my mum moved on from the Monde. They blew up in popularity shortly after she left. She didn't speak to them for years but bumped into Michael at Sydney Airport not long before headed and he remembered her dearly. They shared hugs and caught up for a good while in the airport. My mom claims they were just friends, but we all know the truth. My mom has been tight-lipped about it all, but described him as shy. One of my teenage girlfriends went on to marry the drummer of a fairly big band her and I used to bond over. She was an absolute starfish in bed, hell looks like a troll, is 15 or more years older Tanner, can't imagine they are having great ex. They look happy though, and I like that for them.